You know what's worse than silence? Being silenced. And that's exactly where Caitlin Clark finds herself right now. Not just injured, not just exhausted, but boxed in. By a league that's happy to cash in on her fame, but seemingly allergic to protecting her. By a system that expects her to smile through bruises and stay quiet through blatant disrespect. And now, according to multiple reports and growing whispers, by a league that's issued a shocking ultimatum. Toe the line, or risk being...
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
And Caitlin? She's had it. Let's be clear from the jump. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's not about missed layups or defensive switches. This is about power, protection, and the very soul of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark's rookie season should have been a coronation. A record-breaking, genre-shifting, ratings-bursting moment in time. And in a way it was. Ticket sales? Unprecedented. TV ratings? Sky high. Jersey sales? She led the league within weeks of stepping on the court. She brought in new fans. Young girls. Families. People who hadn't watched a WNBA game in years suddenly cared. Because Caitlin Clark brought hope. She brought attention. And she did it all while playing unselfish, team-first basketball for an Indiana Fever squad that hadn't sniffed relevance in a decade. But behind the smiles, behind the applause, behind the highlight reels, there was a war going on, and it was waged on her body. From the very beginning, the physical targeting was relentless. We're not talking about tough defense. We're talking intentional hits, off-ball slams, cheap shots, and not just one or two. Game after game, player after player, Caitlin became a magnet for contact. By mid-season, she had absorbed 17% of all flagrant fouls in the WNBA. Let that sink in. One rookie, on one team, taking nearly a fifth of the league's most dangerous fouls. And yet, the whistles barely came. The league stayed quiet. The refs turned blind. And the players? Some didn't just ignore it. They justified it. Claimed she needed to be humbled. That she was just another rookie. That she hadn't earned it yet. Except she had. She earned it when she broke scoring records in college. She earned it when she chose to play for a struggling franchise instead of hiding behind a super team. She earned it every time she got up from the hardwood after being blindsided, shoved, grabbed, and smacked, without a single whistle in sight. But instead of protection, she got silence. And then came the noise. Suddenly, Caitlin wasn't just a rookie. She was controversial. She was divisive. She was the lightning rod for an identity crisis the league had been dodging for years. And yes, race became part of the conversation. When Aya Wilson, a face of the WNBA and one of the most respected players in the game, admitted point-blank that race played a role in the way Caitlin was received by fans and the media, it cracked the conversation wide open. Some players felt Caitlin was being overhyped. Others felt she was being targeted. The league? It felt stuck. Because here was its biggest draw, its most marketable player in decades. And instead of lifting her up, they left her to fend for herself in a political and cultural minefield. All while the hits kept coming. All while the referees stood still. All while the league kept cashing the checks. And now, according to insiders, after weeks of controversy, media firestorms, political op-eds, and growing legal noise behind the scenes, the WNBA allegedly approached Caitlin with a chilling message. Tone it down. Don't speak out. Let's handle it. Only, they weren't handling anything. So Caitlin Clark finally broke her silence. In a brief but searing interview this week, Caitlin didn't hold back. She didn't shout. She didn't rage. But her words? They landed like punches. I've taken a lot of hits, she said. Some physical, some emotional. I've stayed quiet because I thought that was what leaders do. But silence hasn't helped. It's only made it easier for people to act like it's okay. Read that again. She's not just talking about fouls. She's talking about the system. She continued, I love this game. I love this league. But loving something doesn't mean ignoring its flaws. I shouldn't have to choose between being a competitor and being respected. Between being tough and being safe. That wasn't just an interview. That was a line in the sand. And it's got the WNBA scrambling. Because this isn't just about one player anymore. Caitlin's story has become a mirror, one that's reflecting every uncomfortable truth the league has tried to dress up in glossy promos and TikTok clips. The favoritism, the politics, the power dynamics, the silencing of players when their experiences don't align with the league's brand image. And now, the world is watching. Lawmakers have started asking questions. Analysts are calling out the officiating double standards. Fans are pushing back against the narrative that this is just rookie growing pains. And her teammates? They've had enough too. Sophie Cunningham, in a bold post-game interview, didn't hold back. They didn't protect her. And now she's out, she said. We talk about growing the game. But how can we grow if we let the brightest stars get knocked down while everyone looks the other way? And yet, some still want Caitlin to shut up and dribble, to be quiet, to be grateful, to be marketable but not messy. Well, that version of Caitlin Clark is gone. She's seen too much now, taken too many hits, lost too many games because the whistles never came. And she knows that if she doesn't speak now, it'll happen again. To another rookie, to another star, to another player who isn't deemed tough enough to deserve fair treatment. So what happens next? Honestly, no one knows. The league is on its heels. Public pressure is mounting. Social media is boiling over. Fans are picking sides. And Caitlin Clark? She's become the center of a much bigger fight. A fight about race. A fight about power. A fight about what the WNBA wants to be in this new, high-stakes era. Because it can't have it both ways. It can't celebrate its stars while letting them get beaten down. It can't preach empowerment while telling its most impactful players to stay quiet. It can't ride the Caitlin Clark wave while refusing to protect her in the water. So here we are, the league in chaos, the fans divided, the players watching closely, and Caitlin Clark, injured, frustrated, but unapologetically vocal, is standing at the center of it all. She didn't ask to be the symbol of this movement. But now that she's here, she's not backing down, and neither are we. Because here's the uncomfortable truth sitting at the center of this entire mess. We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be watching a generational athlete get caught in a storm of medical mystery and media manipulation. We shouldn't be decoding mixed messages like it's a conspiracy board on a crime show. And we definitely shouldn't be forced to question whether the Indiana Fever, the very organization that was handed a golden ticket with Caitlin Clark, is protecting her or using her. Yet here we are. Again, still, every day that passes without a clear update only deepens the shadows. And while fans argue over whether she'll be back by next week, next month, or never, one thing has become brutally obvious. The Indiana Fever have lost control of this narrative. And you know what? It didn't have to be this way. All they had to do was tell the truth. That's it. Not half-truths. Not carefully worded statements dripping with PR polish. Not, we'll evaluate her day-to-day on week 6 of a groin injury that's kept her out longer than some ACL recoveries. Just the truth. What's the actual diagnosis? What's the real timeline? What's being done to ensure she's not being rushed back to save face or save playoff hopes? Silence isn't neutral. Silence, in this case, is suspicious. Because when Caitlin Clark isn't on the court, everyone loses. The Fever lose their best playmaker. The WNBA loses its ratings rocket. Fans lose the one player who made them feel something in a league they're just starting to connect with. And Clark herself? She loses valuable reps, chemistry, and control over a rookie narrative that's now spiraling without her. And while the league might be hoping the headlines fade, fans are paying attention. They've noticed that press access has suddenly tightened around the team. They've noticed that Clark hasn't posted a single recovery update, something every athlete usually does to reassure fans they're coming back stronger. They've noticed that reporters can't even get straight answers out of staff when asking if she's been cleared for contact drills. Even her teammates? Walking on verbal eggshells. Everyone's optimistic. Everyone loves how hard she's working. But no one can say definitively what's actually going on. That's not optimism. That's damage control. And look, let's say, just for a moment, that the worst-case rumors are true. That this injury is worse than we thought. That the mild strain is something more severe. That this really could be a season-ending or long-term setback. You know what? that would still be less damaging than the endless drip of half-truths and speculation we're dealing with now. Fans can handle bad news. What they can't handle is being lied to, misled, and sold hope that was never real. Especially when it involves someone like Caitlin Clark, a player who's given everything to this game, only to be treated like a storyline instead of a human being. And if you think that sounds harsh, let's not forget, this isn't just another rookie. This is a player who had 2 years left of eligibility in college and chose to come to the WNBA. She didn't have to. She could have stayed where she was comfortable, making nil money, breaking records, being protected. But she came anyway. She chose pressure. She chose the challenge. She chose to carry a franchise, a league, and the weight of public expectation on her back, all at 22 years old. And now, she's being handled like a marketing prop. They used her to fill stadiums, sell merch, boost TV deals. And now that she's injured, they're afraid that being honest about her condition will pop the hype balloon they spent the whole year inflating. But here's the thing. Caitlin Clark isn't a balloon. She's not going to float away if you're honest. She's not going to disappear just because she's not suiting up this week. What she needs, what her fans need, is trust. Because this isn't just a setback. It's a test. A test of how the WNBA treats its stars when the cameras dim. A test of how the Fever handle adversity when their crown jewel is sidelined. A test of whether this league is truly ready to handle the kind of global attention Clark brings, or if it'll fold under the pressure. And so far, they're failing. Because this isn't just Caitlin Clark's career. It's her health, her longevity, her entire future. And if she's being mismanaged now, during her rookie season, what happens 3 years from now? 5? Are we going to be looking back on this moment as the beginning of a career that was cut short? Not by lack of talent, not by bad luck, but by a broken system that didn't know how to protect its own? God, I hope not. Because Clark deserves better. She deserves to have the space to recover fully. Not under pressure from broadcasters, not in service to season ticket holders, not to save a struggling record. She deserves to return when she's ready. And only then. So let's stop pretending this is business as usual. Let's stop treating this like another next game decision. This is a crossroads. For Caitlin, for the Fever, for the WNBA. And the next move? It's everything. Because if the league continues to fumble this, the damage won't just be physical. It'll be reputational. Caitlin Clark's injury has already become the story of the second half of the season. And if this ends with her being shut down completely after weeks of misleading updates, if fans find out she was never close to returning, but her name was used to push tickets anyway, yeah, that's a storm the league won't walk away from clean. It'll raise questions about ethics, about player protection, about whether this league, which claims to champion women, really values the bodies and futures of its most visible stars, or just their ability to sell out an arena. So what's the truth? Is Caitlin Clark coming back soon? Is she further behind than they've let on? Or, worst of all, has a decision already been made behind closed doors and the public's just being kept in the dark? We don't know. And that's the problem. Because in the absence of truth, speculation takes over. And speculation is a wildfire. So here's a message to the Fever, to the league, and everyone in charge. Tell the truth. Protect the player. Respect the fans. Because this is more than a game. It's a moment. And if you blow it, you don't just risk Caitlin Clark's season. You risk everything she brought with her. And if she's truly out permanently, you better be ready to explain exactly why. Because no one's accepting silence anymore. All right, let's go all the way in. Because at this point, this isn't just about an injury. It's not just about groin strains, practice reports, or missed games. It's about trust and how quickly it's eroding between Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, the WNBA, and the very fans who showed up in droves to support them. This was supposed to be the dream season. You remember it. April, draft night. Caitlin Clark walks across the stage, that signature blend of humble and fearless, draped in Indiana blue. Flashbulbs, cheers, expectations sky high. The Fever were no longer the forgotten team. They were the team. Ticket sales exploded overnight. National broadcasts lined up. Jerseys? Sold out. Headlines? All hers. She wasn't just a player. She was the story. And then the hits started. Literally. The flagrant fouls. The cheap shots. The welcome to the league treatment that crossed over from physical to predatory. And through it all, Caitlin kept showing up. Kept playing. Kept smiling. She didn't complain. She didn't ask for special treatment. She took it on the chin and the hip and the elbow and the back and kept pushing. But the problem? No one protected her. The referees didn't. The league didn't. And now, with her sidelined and silent, it's becoming increasingly obvious that even her own team might not be doing what's best for her long-term health. Because let's be honest, this timeline doesn't add up. No rookie should be day-to-day for over a month, especially with an injury that, at first, was downplayed as precautionary. Especially when sources inside the team say she's doing sprints one day, then suddenly hasn't been clear for practice the next. What is the truth? What are they hiding? Because if it was a re-injury, say that. If it was misdiagnosed, own it. But dragging this out, stringing along fans, manipulating the media narrative, teasing her return for weeks, feels more and more like a calculated distraction. And if that's the case, that's not just shady. That's dangerous. Because this isn't a player who could be quietly stashed on the bench while you figure it out. This is Caitlin Clark. Every decision about her body, her minutes, her return, has ripple effects that touch the entire WNBA. You don't just lie low and hope it sorts itself out. And here's where it gets even darker. What if she's being silenced? Think about it. She's smart, media savvy, honest. The kind of player who, under normal circumstances, would post a recovery update, a rehab video, something, anything to let her fans know how she's doing. But for weeks, nothing. Not even a cryptic tweet. Not even a smiling courtside photo. You think that's by accident? Or do you think maybe, just maybe, someone told her to keep quiet? Told her that saying the wrong thing could damage the brand? The team? The narrative they've built around her? Because right now, the silence is deafening. And it's not just fans noticing. Journalists are frustrated. Insiders are scrambling. Even veterans, players who usually mind their own business, are starting to speak up. Not directly, of course, but in interviews on Twitter, in vague but pointed comments. There's tension, real tension. You can feel it in the air. And let's not forget the whispers that came before this injury even started. That she wasn't welcome. That she hadn't earned it. That her hype was undeserved. That she was too privileged, too promoted, too white, too lucky. As if any of that negates the work she put in. The hours, the numbers, the leadership. As if any of that gave people the right to treat her like a punching bag just to prove a point. And now that she's hurt, they're acting like it's no big deal. Like she'll bounce back. Like fans should just be patient and keep buying tickets for the chance she might show up. That's not just mishandling. That's exploitation. Because whether they want to admit it or not, Caitlin Clark is the engine behind everything good that's happened to the Fever and the WNBA this year. And instead of protecting that engine, they've run it into the ground and are hoping it'll fix itself. But what happens if it doesn't? What happens if, 6 weeks from now, she's still not back? What happens if we find out her injury was mishandled, that she was rushed, pushed, or minimized for the sake of a few more butts in seats? That's the nuclear scenario, the one no one wants to talk about. But it's becoming harder and harder to ignore. And let's be real, Caitlin Clark is smart enough to see it. She knows her worth. She knows what she's done for the game. And if she starts to feel like the people around her aren't prioritizing her health, her legacy, her future, she will walk. Maybe not today. Maybe not this season. But it's already in motion. The cracks are forming. The trust is fracturing. And if she does walk away, whether it's a transfer, a holdout, or a permanent exit from the WNBA, the blame won't fall on her. It'll fall on the people who had a chance to support her and didn't. So here's where we stand. Caitlin Clark is still injured. Her team won't say why. The league won't step in. The media can't get a straight answer. And the fans are fed up. We deserve clarity. She deserves respect. And most importantly, she deserves a future that hasn't been compromised for someone else's bottom line. Because if the next update we get is that she's done for the season, or worse, don't act shocked. Don't act like there weren't signs. Don't act like we didn't beg for honesty. This is the warning, and it might be our last chance to get it right.